Ladies and gentlemen, NSL Live Talk, this time from a totally different angle and perspective. Not only here at this place, the Shamrock Showdown 2025 is totally over now, but the perspective is usually towards the other side there, because that's where the teams and competitors are. From in time, creators and operators, Dirk Venter, Claire King, and Mr. Jim Rees, and who is probably the most engaged functionary on the planet at the moment with organizing, managing, directing, judging, diplomacy and policy and all of that. Hi, Jim.
Spread thin. Yeah.
Good morning. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through two events, because all three of you were at Paraclete XP for the Indoor World Championship, and then you moved straight southward to Florida and Sky of the Land for the Shamrock Showdown 2025. You've seen it all. And you've seen it all from the other perspective, behind the camera, not like a videographer or so, but so you have a totally different view of the things which are going on. Of course, you know it from the other side too, because you jumped indoors, outdoors for many years in South Africa and at other events with other teams. And Jim with Mass Defiance and whatever came afterwards, the top amateur team in the world, unofficial amateur team.
Still, it hasn't been updated.
Hasn't been up?
You haven't updated that designation yet? It's been a long time.
No, I'll keep that forever. I think the so-called unofficial amateur teams should get all the credit in the world, because they do it for recreational purposes and put all their money and time into it, as we all did. So that title will be out there forever. Whether it's approved by FAI, ISC or USBA or anybody else, for me they will still be the unofficial amateur champions. And one of them were you by then. And I know you're supporting it anyway. So I want to stop talking. I want you to talk about what you saw and what you have to give back to the community, what they should know and consider when they go to the next competitions. We saw a lot of teams on all levels. We had the world champions and we had the A-class teams, the new generations. So tell us, what did you see at Paraclete? What do you see here? Because one indoor competition, one outdoor competition. Yeah. A lot of different perspectives. Dirk.
Yeah, I think we have spoken about it, but for me, obviously there was the competition itself, the teams and the excitement around that. But what was interesting for me as a kind of scoring system operator and being involved in the engine that runs behind the scenes often, this is the first indoor world championship or World Cup where we have a separation between the disciplines, and we only had formation skydiving. So for me that was the biggest point of interest, being the support person at this competition, and to see how that changed from previous World Cups and World Meets. And it's I'm not sure people are necessarily aware of it in the front of this, but it simplifies a lot of things for us. So that's the first thing I noticed, is that it was a lot simpler. The process is quite smooth, in terms of the planning and running through everything, because it's a well-oiled machine in the formation skydiving setup. And often we'd find officials or people going, well, things are, it's so smooth, it's all done. So that was, for me, was a big thing that I noticed. And then the second thing on the other side, where they could give more, there was definitely more breathing room for the competitors, and in terms of the live stream production, the flow of the competition seemed to be a little bit more spread out. So it gave a bit more breadth, kind of, for the teams. So I guess, if it continues like that, I think there's a lot of room for them to use that and maybe improve on these on the package that gets offered. So that was the big thing that I noticed in this indoor competition.
Agreed. You saw that the same way.
Absolutely, and I think from the setup and kind of back end setup perspective, also from setting up from the judging perspective, we were just already so much sooner than we normally would have, because it's this homogenous system, it's this homogenous event where we don't have two very disparate needs, of the different disciplines, which I think, it's something that certainly for myself, I've been really looking forward to this experiment. I've wanted to see how it works for a few years. We can obviously, it'll take a while before we see how it works financially. We typically have a smaller turnout in the US, so I'm really interested to see how Europe works for the indoor next year, where we'll have a World Cup and it'll be in Europe, which means we should have a bigger turnout to really get a good feel for the financial impact. But certainly from the setup perspective, I agree. We were ready earlier, and then once it starts rolling, it's so smooth and easy compared to some of these combined events.
The logistics,
absolutely.
for sure.
The logistics are, you can't even describe how much simpler it is from our perspective. Yeah.
And Jim agrees too with that, I guess.
Yeah, the model of this event followed very closely a similar model that the U.S. Indoor Championships had. So we had
you
recent
saw that
experience
too.
with
So you had Indoor Championship, Indoor World Championship, National U.S. Indoor Championship, World Championship, and then Shamrock.
Yes. Well, the breakdown, like the morning of 4-way followed by an afternoon of 8-way VFS, and that alternation was consistent between the two events. But thinking back to prior indoor championships, where you'd have most of the day, like the FS competitors would be told, don't even show up today, or don't show up till 4 in the afternoon. So that stretches the experience out for all competitors, because there's so many more gear shifts that going on.
Yeah. The other thing I didn't mention, which you just said, is also this is the first kind of official 8-way indoor championship.
Second.
That was, official one where it was
official,
okay,
and
not a test event.
World Championships,
Which is probably now will be more likely if this continues. There's more likely chance that a 16-foot tunnel gets selected for the FS side, because that's preferential, I guess.
So this feedback and this, will automatically go back to the commission, because you're a member too of the commission, so the FS commission at the IAC committees. Sorry.
And on the IAC commission.
So it was brewed there, and it goes back there with positive experiences.
And I think the other thing actually from this, that the other big impact that also again as a result of the logistics is it gives a lot more breadth, I think, for the live stream. I think that is again, there's space in the gallery. So that stuff was quite nice as well. You have a little bit more range to play with the live stream when you just have the one event. The logistics of that is easier for the live stream guys.
It's easier for the audience too. A lot easier.
Yeah, the programming for the audience potentially.
So we got to really have a nice live stream, offering, and of course it's not just the logistics that caused that. The people doing that live stream and commentary did an amazing job, which helps that as well. But I think certainly the simplicity lends itself better to being able to play a little bit with what you want to do on the live stream.
Yeah, it's if I think of the audience, there is not a lot of overlapping between artistic events and formation skydiving events. So the audience who want to see only formation skydiving, in the previous events they had to wait forever, and the other way around, the people who are only interested in artistic flying,
exactly,
they had to wait until there's no formation. I would say, why do they play that?
It did actually an extra impact on formation, because the formation skydiving flying would be finished, but essentially there's still judging happening in the back end, finishing off, right? So that always got lost, because they have to switch over straight away to another discipline, and then those scores, anything interesting around that got lost, because it was after the fact now quite a bit.
Yeah, when
And
the
you-
live stream's now looking at the
Yeah, there's a lot of information flows happening at once from different sources.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot of the judging panels have a lot of work these days. It has to be quick and it
That's
has
the
to be
thing.
correct.
Yeah.
And correct is becoming more and more difficult because it is so fast. So that and the leaderboards are looking accordingly to that. You know, they are very colorful these days with the red marks on it.
Yeah.
So what is your take on that, on the experience? You know, are the teams applying the rules as they are supposed to do that, or is it critical what you see sometimes, all the time now?
I'm not sure what the game is in indoor and outdoor. The outdoor, you know, after coming here and judging the outdoor events is like, okay, this is back home. This is the normal stuff. Good video quality is a high priority if you're an outdoor team.
Lot less busting. Right.
But indoor, the game seems in certain events and at certain levels, the game seems to be balls out, take chances, see what happens.
Balls out, I
And
like that. So
if that's what-
that's a good way.
And I've always said if that's how the competitors want to measure themselves against their peers, then by all means let's do it. But I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, and I'd welcome more feedback. from
But
the community.
isn't your judges? I mean, isn't judging? Very challenging. Let's say these, because the same people who are applying this go balls out. They want the scores quickly, right?
Well,
So-
quickly balance, with accuracy.
Yeah.
So now you are in this position where if there is a lot of busty jumps, it slows down the judging. So there's pressure for the team to get the scores out, but they also want to get the judging team I'm talking
Yeah.
about. They want to get the more accurate score out.
Yeah.
So there is that balance, which comes into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it also starts to bring back the debate about the 3-man panel versus the 5-man panel, because
Oh, that too, right?
you kind of, now when you're getting into a really busty scenario, right, where you're starting to get teams just going all out and busting, a lot of busts, you end up with a lot of spots. But with a 3-man panel now, you've got one kind of swing vote each time. So yeah, I mean, it's the teams don't like, all you need are 2 people to coincide busts, for it to come out. So again, it comes down to speed versus accuracy.
Yep.
And then the flying speed being more busty. You've only got kind of, one extra person to coincide one of your picked busts, because you pick battles when there's a lot going on. Each judge, you kind of pick the battles.
Interesting. So there is a difference apparently between indoor and outdoor. So would you consider it, if you compare, if you take into consideration the outdoor world championship, the last one was the last big outdoor event, right? And now the Shamrock Showdown, and then in between the indoor events, does a similar thing apply for outdoor competition? Are the teams going balls out?
No.
Or is it different?
No,
That's
no,
different.
for sure that the phenomenon is not there yet. The physics with the rigs and everything is definitely slows everyone down anyway.
Oh,
The
that's
judging
right.
panels are bigger. They have more time, so they can afford to scrutinize more and be much more accurate.
That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can also, imagine that for outdoor, we've got it's 5 and 5 judging panels, but indoor, there's this, you have this option of doing 2 5-man panels, or splitting it into 3 man, which is going to be quicker overall because there's more parallel processing. But now you're getting what Claire's saying. So it is that balance as well. Saying, well,
the
do we
variance.
Well, if you're
too.
good judges, no problem. So then
but
you can,
judges have their off days. You can say it's a good judge, but they all get tired.
Except you guys.
Yeah.
We all
Oh
get
yeah, we
tired. No,
never
do.
get.
No, you
No,
do
I
get
have
tired.
bad days all the time. yeah.
So you have that, there's all things to balance. But I mean, to this point, the Shamrock, I mean, the French did not bust.
Well, I just wanted to say there's one exception, indoors and outdoors.
Yeah.
They had, I think, 2-point deductions at the indoor event that they won on a, whatever level, and then that was historic now.
Yeah.
No point deduction at all at the Shamrock shot. Could you really not find anything when you?
So
No, we all
we
found
had
stuff.
spots. Yeah. So there were 1 or 2 spots, and there were certainly reviews, but they were clean.
We
They
didn't
flew
agree on
clean,
it,
and so
yeah.
so we left out with a couple of spots that never collated into anything. But I don't think, you know, sometimes when that happens, you say, oh yeah, man, this team got away with some stuff. In this case, that wasn't the case. They were true judgment calls that, you know, it's not a strong enough bust that it lines up, and I think that was the correct outcome. You know, of course, you know, you always look back and see maybe there's a bust you missed or whatever, but I think that was the correct outcome. I don't think they got away with stuff that got missed. They flew clean.
Absolute stuff.
They flew fast and clean.
Crowd did. Everyone gets away with something here and there. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing
But-
major, right?
right,
There's nothing.
right.
We're not
But-
going to go back and kick ourselves. We will probably, but
It's nice to have. It's nice to have a meet where it wasn't just everyone being busted to death.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that one team
Somebody
did
shows.
show it clean proves to us is like, okay, we're not crazy. This team showed us what we needed to see better than everyone else.
Yeah.
So they should be rewarded.
absolutely. And we had the luxury of time in this meet where it's not like we were hugely paced and said, oh, we can't look at that again. It's not like we only looked at their jumps once. They earned that. They earned that outcome.
So what's the message to the other teams?
Go fast.
Better camera.
Don't bust.
Train, have more experience together.
Not balls out. It's
Well,
not.
that France has been together a lot longer, and their
Yeah.
teamwork is so much more advanced right now than anyone else.
It would be
So
interesting.
clean and then it's balls out and then clean it up.
Yeah, but you know, to be fair to the other teams, I think if you had to look at the number of camera camera-related busts, if you took that away, and then just looked at where teams had actual busts, where either they brain locked or whatever, the actual busts, it's probably quite.
Be
They were
interesting
pretty
to
clean
see.
in general.
Yeah, it
Like,
would be
it's not-
interesting to see.
Yeah,
You're
I
right.
think
Everybody took one or two though, except France.
That's
Even
true.
of the
Yes,
non-video.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's not a huge amount. You know, they were pretty clean.
Yeah, it wasn't busty.
So maybe in other words, France may set a good example that it can be done,
Yeah.
and the other teams may just clean it up to copy that without any additional punishments, because there's a discussion, that the penalty is too easy, that they all just go balls out. So because it's just one point, if you miss a grip, so what? Just move on and we compensate by.
Yeah.
But you can have
putting-
both, right? So that's what they're showing. You
Yeah.
can do both, and it's absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it is. It's like Jim says. You train it together.
Can
You
be
build
done.
up that speed as a group.
What's the
pays
but
off.
there's a psychology probably behind it that the other teams they think we can only beat them if we pick up the pace, and go as fast as we can to catch up with a French level of speed and.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if I look at your Shamrock AAA competition, you look at the top teams that would go potentially compete internationally at the events. You took away the camera-related bus, and you look at the ones where there were you get the actual bus where someone brain locks, which is that's just unfortunate. That's
Out
not
of
them
the
trying
game.
to push the pace necessarily. Maybe it's part of the game. And you then look at the remaining ones, which is the non-stationary, incomplete. I'm building, he's keying, that type of thing. There wasn't that many between
No,
them. They all
no.
trying.
Here's an observation. In my observation over the past 15 years, the teams that have peaked, that have reached their peak, the top teams that have reached their peak, they tend to be very easy to judge
Yes.
when they get to that peak.
Yeah.
So, say like airspeeds,
Airspeed.
as they're evolving, traditionally, once there's going to come a point where all of a sudden, not only are they fast, but really easy to judge.
Yeah.
And France is basically easy to judge.
Great,
Absolutely.
great point.
And I mean,
yeah.
Habusa
Yes.
for the last few years. I mean, that's
same
been
thing.
the easy
They
thing,
were the
right?
same
You
thing.
kind of.
In the airspeed.
Yeah, like the low experienced judges, they would see Habusa come on the screen and they'd be like, oh, A game. But actually, it's easier because it's just so. And I think to go back to your question of like, what is the lesson to be learned? I mean, that's a question for the coaches, right? Not for the judges. I mean, for us, the lesson to be learned: go fast, don't bust. How you do that? That's a coach's question.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible to go fast and be clean. It's for me the number one. So
Absolutely.
teams
Yeah.
can't come and say, yeah, but you're busting us unnecessarily.
Yeah.
But it's clear. You bust. I can show you. There it is. So you can fix it. But now it's not possible. Yeah, look at the French.
Yeah, look at
it's
we have a
possible.
perfect example now to
Yeah,
point at.
exactly.
It can be done.
Yeah.
So I'm hesitant now. I was advocating kind of for more penalty
Higher
to
penalty.
force everybody to be more cleaner. But now I'm hesitant with that because France is showing everybody it can be done.
Yeah, and I mean, what's interesting is we spoke to a couple of guys after the world beat now, who felt that they had some heavy busts, and certainly, and I speak only for myself here, those that I've spoken to and have gone back after the meet and reviewed those jumps, they're not unfair busts. That, for the most part, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky, but the ones that I've reviewed were very standard busts, and I think that with that in mind, your thought about do they need heavier penalties, I think the answer maybe is no, because they're already they're aching from those, and when you look and say they were fair busts and you're still feeling like that it was a harsh meet for you, that to me says that the penalty is maybe still correct, is just having a 0, because they are feeling hurt by it, right? They're learning that lesson in the right way. I think a heavy penalty would start to get, it could start to get pretty...
There is one thing that for me is debatable, is we spoke about it earlier, saying if we want a quicker, cleaner judging style, like you want this judging to go quicker, so fewer views and get a cleaner, of course that would be ideal then if the teams weren't doing this, because they now slow down the judging side of things. So that
maybe
impact
only
still.
maybe you could even separate indoor outdoor.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is maybe also just thinking about this world meet, those busts, I think a lot of them were accumulated on very specific rounds. I think if you took 1 or 2 rounds away,
Which
it's a
often
very
happens.
different complexion potentially.
Be a close look at the
Some rounds away.
we'll think about this and we'll carry that on to the committees and so it will be interesting. There should be evaluation, continuation of this kind of discussion, and then see what is the best. And you're doing that.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of that.
And I mean, that's part of, before the round, that's why we have that rule that's come in now that says before the round you can look at the draw and say, and change the review speed. So some were done at 70% and some were done at 50.
Yeah, that's
because you look at the draw and say this is just going to require a little bit more.
Like a random sequence will get the 50%, and
Exactly.
3 block sequence will get 70 or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's a starter, a great initiating starter from our discussion. There's one more thing that popped up in my head, and that's more for Jim. You got kind of trapped in the rule making, in the dive pool kind of thing. Now we saw the results of that. The indoor, the new block 20 was applied at the US Indoor Championship, at the Indoor World Championship.
Not the US.
No, sorry, the other way around. The old.
Here we had the old
block
block.
20.
It fell out into the tiebreaker anyway, so they didn't have to do it.
At the Indo at the World Championship, So but it was now we saw a month later, a few weeks later, basically the new block 20. What did you all see? Jim was trapped. You can explain that or not. I mean, what
Trapped?
You called it kind of trapped because you had to. You were part of the decision making. There was a deadline, So
Claire was in on that conversation too. She's on the same FS committee.
Oh, okay. So both of you had to make a call somehow for the outdoor, for the indoor championships, whether the new one would be applied there already or not. And
that wasn't difficult to not make the change
the
for
old
indoor.
one.
Because it's you can't change it right in the middle of the cycle.
But it's unusual that the change applies for one event, at one deadline, and then the other, and the same then for later on.
But all the indoor always
always a year
kicks
behind.
off 1st of May, and all the outdoor kicks off in end of March.
Yeah, so the indoor is really always
that
a
is
year back.
always like
Always,
that.
Always a year back.
always. So
I see.
that's standard.
Okay.
We don't get to
we have to think
decide.
ahead about the
Yeah.
things that we care about for indoor. We have to think about way in advance.
So it wasn't. So then the more practical or technical question is like you saw the new block 20 first time now at the outdoor competition, but it will be applied at all the indoor competitions
Going
from
forward.
here on forward. And the size of the tunnel chambers and all that always plays a role in that. And it may be also the next indoor World Cup World Championships are in 16 or 14 foot chambers.
It's Lille, I think. It's 16.
It's in Lille, so
One
16.
that's a World Championship indoor or World Cup.
World Cup
Cup.
next
Okay.
year.
So whatever, it will be a 16 foot chamber.
Yeah.
So there should be no problem with the new Block 20, right? And how about 14 foot chambers? You know, people practice, most of the teams in the world practice in 14 foot chambers, not in 16 foot chambers. Is that any, did it have any potential? Does Block 20, the new version, need more space
Space
than
or
we
not?
thought it would?
For the top teams, for the way for the way it was designed, I don't think that's. I'm not anticipating that to be a problem, even for large people, because we know a zipper fits, and if you're doing the 3D in a consistent fashion, the burble should be enough as long as you keep moving.
You
And
had
it's
that
a
team,
single
didn't you
grip.
have a 12-foot meet or something, one earlier in the year? Was that the 12-foot
Yes.
tunnel?
Yes,
And you gave them the choice.
And
Yeah, the
we
choice.
gave them a choice between the two, and we did get some video examples of it, if it working out well. It worked out okay at New Hampshire for the teams that went for it, and they were able to pick up the pace and do it better and better. I was a little disappointed. I kind of lost the argument. The committee decided to mandate the same direction for both pieces. If they had allowed either direction for both pieces, then a low experienced team in a smaller tournament would be able to.
Yeah, that would be my next question. Exactly that.
And
So, yeah.
I didn't feel like the same direction is going to be faster with the 3D anyway, so it's not like you're hurting the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost that debate. Maybe we can revisit that in the future. But
Yeah,
we'll see how-
like with the 18. No, 18 allows both directions,
Yes.
so you can easily do it in a 14 footer vertically.
Yeah.
Difficult, but doable with the horizontal technique, the cogging technique.
Right.
And with zipper, there is no option than vertical. So the lower experienced teams will be suffering. So they have to go vertical now if they are in a 14-foot chamber. So interesting that too. Technically,
no, at the local level, we can always tweak things. You know, at the lower experience, it's not affecting records or team selection issues. So we have the opportunity to make those adjustments if we needed to. After having seen these outdoor 20s for the first time, my concern again at the lower experience levels, the intermediates and below. I'm anticipating to see a few more
This
cases
is
of assist scripts.
I was
We're
gonna
gonna
talk
we're
about
gonna
that.
see these pieces folding up, and judges are going to be working really hard to make those decisions about whether these are being picked up.
Yeah.
Because there are two that are doing it. So you've got many things to. I felt that like there's a
Yeah.
lot of things you want to see at the same time, and they,
It's very
like
flopsy.
in your eye,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for the judge to see all of it in one go.
Yeah.
For
They're
sure.
just very hingy.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
NG plus
Yeah.
there's the gripper. So there's the, is the slidey gripper thing plus this extra, assisting and on both. So there's a lot of things that you could potentially have.
It's a very messy. Visually, it's a very
Visually
messy
messy.
block to judge. I find.
Yeah, some of those landings are crashing a bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then if people are not so well trained with vertical transitions, you will have probably more of those crashes. So when we go, it's interesting, guys, for to listen to this from the other side of the performance. So I guess we have spent enough time now on that. We could talk about this, and we do that about all kind of topics for hours usually. But we're going to stop that here now. Thank you very much, Jim, Lea, Dirk, for sharing that with us and with the community. And you guys better take that serious what they're saying and thinking, because that's coming to you.
Thanks, good for the competition. It was,
It was a really
very
good
enjoyable
one.
competition.
I agree.
It was,
a
thank you.
fantastic one.
It was the best Shamrock ever. So that's the other thing. Put the Shamrock in 2026 in your calendars.
Yeah.
It will happen because it's a World Championship, outdoor World Championship year.
Okay.
So we will do that again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.